Hi, good evening, and welcome to episode 21 of our Eagles Nesting series while we're all staying at home and hopefully staying safe and just enjoying looking back at so many amazing memories and historic games for our Eagles. This week already we've talked to MacLeod Cook, who was part of this 2013-14 Eagles season that we're up to and in right now. Drew Lasker, of course, on Sunday, just gone on the bank holiday weekend. Tonight got two very special guests for you as we look back at what is the semi-finals of that 2014 BBL Play-Offs run. It's another game against the Riders, but it is just such an amazing home game I've got coming for you after this interview. Tonight, I'm joined by two very special guests. Firstly, who was at the time on the sideline as our assistant coach, of course, now our head coach. Welcome, Ian MacLeod.
Hi, Dan. Thank you very much for having me on. Appreciate it.
It's great to have you here. We'll chat in just a second, but want to welcome our other guest joining us from the court of this season. And, well, it was his first of what was a run between 2013 to 2017 as an Eagle. Welcome to the Nest In, Scott Martin.
Hi, Dan. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here. It's going to be fun.
Well, we know this season was your first as an Eagle. So first and foremost, thanks for joining us today. But what have you been up to since you were an Eagle, and you know, where have you been this last few years? What have you been getting up to?
Yeah, again, thanks for having me. But yeah, I'm very fortunate. I was able to come back to Notre Dame, where I played college basketball, and Coach Bray hired me and brought me on staff. So I am the development and recruiting coordinator for Notre Dame basketball.
Straight after you were with us, you went away to play in the Czech Republic. What was it like going and playing in Europe compared to playing in the BBL?
You know, it was definitely a little different. You know, one thing over there is, you know, what I enjoyed so much about playing for the Eagles and playing for Fab and Mac and Dave was we ran more of an American style, guard-oriented, motion, move, cut, that kind of thing. Over in Europe, it's a bit more, how you say, strategic, and they like to run their stuff a lot more. So it's a bit more A to B to C in your movements. But you know, that again, you still get to do what you can do and make your plays. But it was just a little different. The size was different. Obviously, the guys were a little bit bigger, but not quite as athletic. So it was a bit of a change, but I enjoyed it at the same time.
Obviously, this season, as we heard from MacLeod and Drew, was a great season for the Eagles, winning the league, but very much the bridesmaid, not the bride, when it came to these silverware games. The Cup was a tough loss against the Riders, and when we get into the semi-finals scenario, as we did against them, it was an on-the-road game to start off on an unusual Thursday night, actually, against the Riders in Leicester. Going into that game, Ian, if I start with you first, playing against Leicester, and you know they were toe-to-toe with us through a lot of games in this season. What was your feeling going into that Thursday game?
The first leg you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's always tough when you're on the road, and especially with the two legs. We would just, you know, we'd take a 1-point win. We'd probably take a tie on the road in that situation. Obviously, I think it was 11 points in the end, the deficit. But no, it was just another big game. I mean, it was my first year, to be honest, so I was probably just still figuring stuff out, trying to not mess up too bad. But no, it was a tough game. I was very aware of the history, even the guys who was their first year. I mean, that was one thing Fab always did very well. He really painted the picture for guys. They understood, you know, the environment that we're going into and the opponents we were facing. So it was a huge game, you know, and thankfully it worked out in the end.
How do you go from playing in a game like that, Scott, on a Thursday night, going down by 11 and then thinking, okay, on Sunday, you know, we got to win this, we got to do it, but it's a deficit that you're going into the game with. What's that feel like, stepping on court in that game, thinking we haven't just got to win this one by 1, we got to win it by 12?
Well, I think you rely a lot on your older guys, your experience, your veterans. Charles and Fab. Drew had been there before. And for a lot of us, it was, at least, well, for me, and I'm sure probably Malik, it was our first time really that season using the aggregate scoring. We don't do that in America. It's new to us. So it was a different feel for sure. But, Fab and Chuck told us stories about, I think Matt can correct me if I'm wrong, they were playing Sheffield one year and they were down big after the first leg, and they were able to, they knew going into it they were going to come back, like they got them, we just didn't play well.
Yeah.
So, we kind of lean on that experience of them and their confidence, like, hey, this is definitely doable. And then you kind of just go out there and you just play your game and kind of let it go where it's going to go. And try not to think too much about it, but at the same time, it's always in the back of your mind.
By this point in the season, obviously, Scott, you've built up relationships with the guys. Coming into the Eagles, though, what was that like? What was like joining the team and meeting this bunch of guys for the first time? Coming away from college basketball in the US and getting in with a team that had such a huge amount of history and legacy like the Eagles.
Yeah, no, it was a little difficult at first, for sure. In college basketball over here, you get, you're here for 4 or 5 years, however long it might be if you're me 6. But you only get a couple of new teammates a year. You have 2 or 3 guys that graduate, then you bring 2 or 3 freshmen in, and it's kind of, you're never really meeting a whole new team except for obviously when you're first coming in. So it was a bit to get used to, just to know everyone, to build those relationships, and then having the player coach was a little difficult at first, for sure. It takes some getting used to, and you're trying to figure out how that relationship really works. And, it takes a little time, but, eventually we got there for sure.
With us playing the Riders so many times across this season in such close games, Ian, the way that the season progressed, obviously the game started going our way. The Cup final was a really tough loss. And the Riders obviously had that reputation for being a team that were going to be really hard for us. I think we hadn't beat them in, about 5 times of meeting them up until that game in January that we talked over with Drew the other week. What do you think was the turning point in this season? We'll go back to that 2013-14 season that we're in right now, where we kind of got Riders' number.
I think it was probably more about us than them. As much as Scott spent as much time as he could at college, he was still a rookie. It was his first year. I believe it was Malik's first year as well out as a pro. So there was a lot of moving parts there. And people say it's not how you start a season, it's how you finish. And I think we just grew. But also, if you're taking a lot of losses, if you never really truly lose from it unless you learn from it. So obviously we learned from the previous ones and built towards it. So I would actually put it more about on our development as opposed to anything directly correlated to them.
This season, we finished top of the league, obviously, which gave us the high seed and that second leg opportunity in the playoff semis. When we're up against Riders in this game that we're going to show in just a little bit, how important is having that second leg in? What does that do or change to the way you approach the game?
It's one of Dave Forrester's favorite things is to remind everyone that it's 8 quarters. Anytime we play 2 games, it's 8 quarters, guy. It's 8 quarters. Just remember how we finish each quarter. And he's right. But if you get too hung up on that, it can be an issue. We had a similar thing this year when we're up 8 against Cheshire. Up 9 against Cheshire. And you try not to play to it. I remember having an interview that week and they said, how are you going to turn around the 11-point deficit? I said, well, all we got to do is win each quarter by 3. And it's easy to get hung up on that because suddenly you go down 2-zip, 4-zip, and you start doing maths again. But like Scott says, it's about winning the game. Just win that game. When it gets down the stretch, start thinking more about the scores and the maths behind it. But it's quite a unique concept, 2 legs. So I think it's about just focus, really.
Well, we've put the aggregate score actually on the screen for everyone who's going to get to watch this game so they can follow it without having to do the maths all the way through. Without giving away the score for everyone who is going to watch it, it is a very exciting game. I think it's like top 2 games that we've ever played at Sports Central, our obviously former home, as was voted for by the fans when we moved from Sports Central to the ECA. And, the game ends with a hugely climactic moment. Obviously, it is a very, very tight game all the way to the buzzer. Scott, can you remember this season, this game? This is the one that's going to take you to the playoff final in your first year as an Eagle. I mean, Sports Central erupts, but can you remember being in that moment, or is that a blur?
No, yeah, I definitely remember. And again, I think, Matt kind of alluded to, but I think it is an advantage to definitely have that second game at your place, especially if you're down, because they kind of, get the crowd behind you, and we definitely had that going for us in that game, and they kind of help give you that little extra that little extra push to keep going, and you can get there, that kind of feeling. So I think it definitely helped. The atmosphere was amazing, and like you said, it was a great game that came down to the end.
How did you, I'm sure hopefully if we can, we'd love to get you back for some of the games that are coming over the next few seasons to come, as obviously we won lots more silverware the following season, doing the clean sweep, which you're a part of. How was it being in Newcastle, playing with the Eagles? What was that like for you, Scott? How, as memories as you look back, what were your highlights of being part of the program?
I mean, it was a joy to play for the club. I enjoyed every moment of it. I look back on it, and some of my best memories are there. We had a real tight-knit group. All 4 years I was there, especially that year we had the clean sweep. We were really, really close. When Tomo came in, and then Fletch and Dre, and it kind of pushed us over the edge. I think it got us going from the momentum we had built in this season that we're talking about. But I just have so many great memories, great stories. Like before this game that we're about to watch, I think Fab had us over at Gateshead College for about 6 hours watching film the day before. So it just little things like that you look back on, and at the time, but now you look back and it's a great memory. So we had a lot of good times, great relationships. I still keep in contact with most of my teammates. And it was just a great time. I really enjoyed it, and the city was great.
Mac, we go into this game, as I say, down by 11. It's a hair's breadth that we win the game by. I don't know if you can remember the dying seconds of it, but it's actually the Riders' game to lose. I think maybe Chuck has the ball. I think they snatch it away and go on a run. It could have gone either way.
Could have done, but I think Chuck was pretty much mobbed to get the ball. You can get arrested for that type of thing, but referees were certainly going to let the players decide it. It went right down to the wire, which we knew it would be. We knew it was going to be a tough game, but one thing Scott's saying there about the groups that were close, it was because we just had such competitive instinct. Like the guys on that team were all real competitors. And, that's probably the biggest thing when you get to those tight moments is everyone really is geared towards getting a result, and we dug it out. And they're not always the prettiest wins. But when you can see cohesion, when guys are doing things, that's when that instinct and that competitiveness shows through.
I don't want to go too far into the future because we've got this great game coming up next from this 13-14 season. But with players like Scott coming back the following season and the next season being so successful for us, what do you think it was that we took away from this season that we took into that next one?
I think when you don't win your last game, it really does fuel you. Great league performance and a great playoff performance as well, but just didn't quite get over that hurdle. And I think, that probably made a lot of guys think we're coming back and we're going to settle a couple of scores or 4 scores, however you want to put it. But I think the fuel from the previous season was the biggest thing of not coming up on something that we thought we were well placed to win.
Well, I think we'll leave it there if that's okay, guys. Scott, it was great to hear from you, and look forward to hopefully if we can get you on a future episode when we've got many more games and some more silverware to lift as we get through the next few seasons with you as part of our Eagles program.
Absolutely, yeah. Really appreciate you guys having me. I look forward to some more.
Thanks, Scott. Stay safe. And Ian, to you and all the family, hope all is well and you're doing okay. And we look forward to hearing from you, because certainly all the way up to this year and our BBL trophy win, we'll definitely want to hear from you.
Sounds good, Dan. Looking forward to it.
Thanks, Ian. Thanks, Scott. So here we go then. We go back to Sunday, the 4th of May in 2014. We are at home at Sports Central against the Leicester Riders, down by 11 points going into this game. But what a game. All the way to the buzzer. Get some popcorn and get ready for this one. It is the BBL Play-Offs 2014 Semi-Finals. Eagles against Riders. Stay home, control the virus, stay alert, protect the NHS and social care. Save lives and enjoy the game.
We've got Sunday afternoon, it's BBL action here at Sports Central. It's the second leg of the BBL Play-Off Semi-Final. We had the two scores together at the end of tonight, and someone will advance forward to Wembley next weekend. It gives me great pleasure to welcome both on the Leicester Riders here this afternoon. Leading the Riders out, wearing
normally do that, and we just play on.
We'll go back. We'll rejoin the start of the action.
Hey, see already. Get him. seconds this time. Hallelujah.
No objection to the visitors on 3:24. It's Sunday afternoon BBL action. It's BBL Play-Off Semi-Final, leg number 2. Call for the slot for 2.
They normally call it.
I know, but it's not his call.
You don't know what he's saying? Well, he's went Anderson and said, don't do it. Right?
Really not helpful that the Sats are on the score.
Rough up. Sully says no. Sully says no. Something sensible. Here's a no. That had to be a foul. No, apparently not. Probably smarter and do things like that. And another one. That's why it looks wrong.
Sports Central, loud and proud, make some noise!
we've missed a free throw.
I think we've only been behind twice.
It'll be more than that.
You missed one, didn't you?
They're terrible. Harrison has got 4.
They put a sound on the scoreboard too.
What?
The sound's on the scoreboard instead of the kids.
That's what I've seen before.
Double D goes forward in the paint for 2.
That's what I was saying. We had a lot of shots that weren't dropping before. First quarter.
That
doesn't mean anything in this league. Ref sees it, he calls it, doesn't he? Even if he hasn't touched anything.
Mr.
came up. Neil, do you know how long that takes to put that on? Don't start, it all comes up. I'll repair that every week, you know that. No fault, Luke. Would you not? Would you not?
That's why you shouldn't have that there where you can't see it.
I know. Or at least have a white line in there. The referee doesn't look though, ever. In Neil's world as a team, surprised he didn't. Feel back.
Congratulations to the winner of tonight's fundraisers raffle game of signed basketball. It's ticket 611, that's 611. Collect your prize from the south entrance.
Another man to leave open. Eagles need a quarter break. The Eagles need. So that's good.
We're in time 30. Flying back into action, Charles Central, make some noise!
Important.
Anderson checks in, 17.1, favorite trade.
Wins in the wrong one goes. Just tee up if you start wins in the kneel. That makes it for that one.
Flying back into the action,
Yeah, Martin.
This is an announcement for the attention of Danny Ward. That's Danny Ward. Please make your way to the south entrance control desk. Thank you. Let's make some noise! Make some noise! Get behind your Eagles! Big defense!
Still got it. Still got it. When he was pointing there, it wasn't that way.
Defense, Swan Central, make some noise!
Oh, swish.
Nowhere on 24.
He played further, didn't he? So. He's got the ball and he's trying to
Swan Central, loud and proud, make some noise!
He's fine to hit it up, but I think he might
Louder, make some noise!
Malik wasn't busy arguing with the referee. knock on the head?
Yeah, he did.
Well, what's new?
Paul Smith.
Sport Central, loud and proud, make some noise!
Oh, he had a shirt.
Let's get some defense going, Sport Central. Shout it out, defense! We've got that one out there through, we've got that ball sponsors holding.
Oh, there goes. I want to get out though. Holy shit. Great job, Sam. Great job.
Let's get some defense going.
Backcourt. Ball didn't go over. He stood on the line as he picked the ball up. No, Mary. Yes, I think it was a tip foul.
Make some noise, Sport Central.
No. Oh, we're going to see the free.
Get the defense going, make some noise.
Goals, what are you doing?
Here come your Eagles, Sport Central. Get the hands up.
Oh, hey, Neil, almost.
Watch Sport Central, the calling defense, the T-Legs. Watch what's this evening, next through, watch what's this morning.
ridiculous here. Sure. Take the score off. scoreboard recognises it.
Yeah, it is now. We're checking the rules. We're trying to do the stats.
Well, the stats won't work because you've got to pause it, don't do the last play, and then put all the points on Riders and then take them all off again. That's what you've got to do. This happened when we played Plymouth and it was 17. They were winning by 17. The last play, you meant to pause it, put all the points on, let it tick over, stop it, take all the points back off again.
Central, let's keep it going. Eagles, make some noise. Let's hear for the defense. That's our pressure. Rules on that for 2. Crosswood Central, get behind your Eagles. Keep the noise going.
this on.
We got a foul in the paint. We're going to go to the line.
Unsportsmanlike. Get up!
For the